I'm extremely pleased with where we've gotten at this point, and I think we've really touched on something that wasn't quite there. There are other competitors in the market, but because of Geek Bears, we've been able to, I think, surpass some of those other solutions that are there. I'm Levi McCollum. I'm the Director of Operations at ETA Transit. We have been working with Geek Bears for a couple of years now, and Geek Bears has helped us with our new application, Tally. At ETA, we are a CAD-AVL, primarily a CAD-AVL company, which is computer-aided dispatch and automatic vehicle location. The short answer is that we track buses and trains. That's our primary business. But there's also some ancillary areas that we provide services, like digital signage at a train station, perhaps, or the announcements that you might hear on board a bus or a train. Like we do all of that type of integration. An area that we wanted to explore, based on my experience and one of my colleagues' experiences working directly for a transit agency, was building this software that allows transit agencies to capture the number of people getting on the vehicle and getting off, and then comparing that to the automated systems that are on board. So that's where we birthed Tally, and we came up with this idea to have it as a map-based UI. And with that map-based UI, you compare that with the boarding and alighting counts that you would need to be able to compare it with the automated systems on board. And yeah, we went from there. And I know that you all know this, but Geek Bears designed, and I think designed it very well to where it's intuitive and extremely user-focused. I think that's what we focused on primarily in those early days, and it's come through, in the latest iteration. So I'm extremely pleased with where we've gotten at this point, and I think we've really touched on something that wasn't quite there. There are other competitors in the market, but because of Geek Bears, we've been able to, I think, surpass some of those other solutions that are there.
Thanks, Levi. And one thing that was quite unique from our workflow was the fact that we didn't develop the product Tally right away. Prior to that, we came up with a clickable prototype.
Yeah.
And you took that and you showcased it to your customers. Can you speak about why you took that approach, and was that strategical versus just moving forward with development right away?
Yeah, the clickable prototype was interesting in a number of ways. I'd say that the way that it helped us the most is that we were able to validate before we actually built, rather than just taking my word for it or my colleague Christian's word for it. We were able to get this prototype out there and get it in front of people so they could see it. Right? It's much more tangible when I can see it on a screen and I can interact with it a bit. Even if it's in a rudimentary way. I think that matters because it solidifies that it's not just an idea anymore. I had a professor in university who would say, like, if you haven't written anything down, don't come to me, right? You have to write things down. It has to be real. So I think that's the version that we started with. And it was strategic because we didn't want to invest, $25, $50, $100,000 in software and no one wanted it. That's pointless. It's a waste of our time. That's a waste of our customers' time. So we wanted to make sure that what we built was the right solution, not just a solution that kind of halfway worked. It was one that was going to meet the bill. And I think that, by taking that slower approach, right, it does take a little bit longer because you have to design and get the prototype, get some feedback. We put in the time early on so that way we didn't have to spend that extra time later down the road and say, well, how do we fix this because we built the wrong thing?
Right. And when you showcase a clickable prototype to your colleagues or other clients, what did you do with that feedback? Did you pivot completely, or basically just gave you more confidence to go ahead and build it?
I'd say a lot of it was extra confidence, and because we were able to, read the room, talk to, I don't know how many people we talked to. It's been a couple of years ago, but at least 20, 25 individuals in the public transportation space. And because of that, we were able to figure out, like, hey, we're onto something here. It was scratching an itch. At the same time, though, I think there were some points where, I made some assumptions about the way that I work that maybe other people wouldn't do it quite the same way, or they were expecting a slightly different result. So we made a few minor tweaks here and there. But I think overall, it was validation that we were on the right track.
Mhm. And when you showcase these demos or this clickable prototype, what sort of questions do you ask? Were they open-ended questions? Yeah, if you can just
Yeah.
speak to that, will be helpful.
Yeah, it was a lot of open-ended questions, and how would you expect this to work? Like that's the typical, I think, product sort of mindset that you have to go into those meetings with. You don't want to lead anyone to give you a response, but yeah, it's how do you expect this to work? How are you doing this now? How does this graph onto what you would do if you were to design this? Um, really just diving into that discovery and trying to figure out what the agency is using at the moment, right? A lot of them are using Excel, and Excel is great because it's so versatile of a tool, but at the same time, it's very open-ended, and you can fudge some numbers here and there. There are really no checks and balances. So one thing to just make this more concrete is that we built these checks in the software, and for example, one of them is that if you have more people getting off than you have getting on, we give you a notification. Hey, this can't be true, right? You can't have -2 people on board a transit vehicle. That's not possible. Excel would let you do that, but our with our rules that we built in, and with Carlos's help, with the team's help, we were able to design these notifications that said, hey, we're not going to let you move on unless you correct these numbers. So it was that type of feedback and those iterative changes that we made over time. Some of those we thought about, others we didn't. And once we got it in front of people and they started using it, then we were able to build in more of the checks, which made the software stronger, I think.
Gotcha. And would you recommend for other companies to take a similar path of stopping in the design phase, getting some reassurance, and then develop it? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the only way to go. I don't know that there's another option. I guess you could just build it and hope that you got it all right, but I feel like that's foolhardy because you go into it with a lot of ego and say like, oh well, we know we're doing the right thing. We know what the customer needs, and sometimes that's not always the case. Even Christian and myself, as experts coming from the public sector and saying, hey, we should build this thing because we know the value it could bring to transit agencies. We still didn't get it exactly right. And it takes that prototyping, that early development, a lot of talking to customers before you even build anything to be able to make sure that you've at least got it like 80% right, following Pareto's principle. You want to be mostly there, right? And without that, I feel like we'd probably be in that, 40 to 60 range or maybe even lower, just because we didn't get the feedback necessary to make informed decisions. We were just going off of gut, and gut's not very good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And now that we have finally launched Tally, where you are at this present time, and what's the future look like for Tally?
Yeah, so currently we're pausing development, not because of Geek Bears or the relationship, but we're pausing so that we can try to keep this selling momentum that we have right now. We don't want to just build out a bunch of features that customers may not need. I think ETA and myself, we're firm believers in letting the customer drive the development process. It shouldn't just be from our own imaginations that we're creating features left and right, and you get a lot of feature bloat, and it's like, well, how many of these features do you really need? So we're pausing development at this time to ramp up those cells and keep taking in the feedback from our current customers, those new customers that we onboard of different sizes. Even some customers that maybe larger than the agencies that I work for have different needs. So we don't want to go down one path and just pigeonhole ourselves. So that's where we're at this point. And we do anticipate coming back to some of those features that we designed and we just didn't develop. However, at this point, it just seems premature to do that.
Gotcha. And how would you describe our role, like Geekbear's role in our collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, I think your role has been instrumental in being able to, get this not just MVP now, but I think it's beyond that because we have validated. Of course, we're still missing some features, but just being able to get it from idea to something physical or digital, so to speak, something that you can interact with. I think that part of it is just pivotal. Like I had the idea initially, and we kind of sketched it out, but taking it from that to actual working software and ensuring that people can benefit from it, I don't know that we could have gotten there on our own. There's a lot of technical expertise that we have, like with the GTFS, right? But maybe not in the particular frameworks that you're using, and being able to make it friendly for mobile and for the web. I think that's really a lot of the expertise that you were able to bring. And just to kind of reiterate or rephrase that, we had this initial idea of being able to see your data on a map and be able to enter your boarding and alighting counts. Beyond that, when we started to get into the report section, or uploading your own GTFS, or comparing that with uploaded APC files, this APC data is coming from the automated system, and then comparing that to those manual counts that were in Tally, that would have stretched us, especially with our current workload that we're already building software for our customers in our primary business in the CAD AVL side. So having that additional expertise, it was almost an extension of our staff at times, especially when we were working, in the thick of it and developing the software, in a very quick pace. That gave us a leg up. I don't think we would have been able to make it work without, your support.
Thank you, Levi. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you would like to add as far as our experience working so far?
Let's see. I think that the communication is there. You've got the different channels to be able to communicate with the GeekBear staff, whether that's in ClickUp, directly about a particular issue, or if that's Slack, and be able to, talk more generally about like meeting schedule or a problem that we're having. Just being able to report bugs if there are any, and make sure that those are prioritized. I feel like Carlos and the team, they were quick to try to prioritize that and rank it against some of the other work that we had, right? It was a good project manager saying that, well, we're doing this other thing. How do you want us to rank that against what we're already doing? So staying on top of that, then being able to communicate it back to us. And a lot of the times I'm kind of the middleman, because I'm taking it to John, our CEO, and then I'm going to Carlos. So there was some interpretation there that I needed to have. And then sometimes, maybe it wasn't good enough. And Carlos will come back to me and say, hey, where are we? Where does this stand? So the communication, I'd say, spot on. It really was a pleasure to work with you all in that regard.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you, Levi. That wraps up all the questions I had, and I appreciate all the feedback. And you can count on us these upcoming weeks or months. And I'm sure you'll do some, well, not yourself, but your team will do some sales. Yeah. And excited to continue scaling Tally, providing more value to your customers, and shape up the product, right? It's an ongoing process, as you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And, we've got our QA staff internally. There's just a few people, but we're doing some checking right now just to make sure that, hey, all the GTFS files upload seamlessly, and we don't hit any unexpected roadblocks when trying to do X, Y, or Z in the app. That, I guess that's a little bit of extra support that we may need if we run across something. But overall, I think that we're in a really good place to be able to move forward and come back to you once we get to that point where we're like, okay, we need to keep building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Carlos, would you like to add something from your end?
Thank you. Not really, yeah. Likewise, that we are pretty grateful and excited, Levi, to what's coming for Tally. It's a great product so far. One of our best products that we have created with the team. So definitely, it's great to have you as our partner. Yeah, we'll continue growing together. Count on our support to be there.